Hey, we're live. I'm Glenn Seaman, standing in for Gary Batan, and joining me is from NewTek, Chris Burgos. I'll let you do your own introductions.
Thanks, Glenn. Always good to talk with you, man.
Yeah.
We talk a lot behind the scenes about tech stuff. I don't know if we've ever been officially on a video together.
We have not.
This is a great opportunity. We talk a ton about all kinds of new developments, and you actually had me here to talk about a brand new development in NDI 5.5.
Yeah. No, Chris and I interact a lot behind the scenes, work on a lot of deals together, so it's nice to be together. This is great. This is exciting. We're talking NDI 5.5, just came out, just announced last week, and literally it was announced. I downloaded it, I played with it, got excited, and I want to dive right into it. You know, some of the things, you know, there we are. So, you know, NDI 5.5, I mean, NDI 5 was announced. It's great. I look at NDI 5 as really taking the NDI technology and kind of making it, you know, user general. In other words, you don't have to think about it anymore. You don't have to think about, oh, how am I going to get this from point A to B? How am I going to get from Teams to this? How am I going to get a remote caller? And how am I going to do this? And the answer just suddenly became NDI. NDI. I mean, it's the answer for everything. So I think that's really been the beauty of what NDI 5 brought, was just being able to make it more of a commodity item where you don't have to think about jumping from point A to point B. It's just all done through NDI.
I like to say NDI realized the original dream of NDI. NDI 5 was the maturation of that dream of saying, hey, we can get NDI everywhere.
Yep.
And for a while it went through iterations. I mean, you know, the initial versions to even up through 4 were very much in our own little space of live production broadcast. And then 5 was finally like, here we are. Now we're touching everything and everybody in this new way. So I thought 5 was a giant, like it says a revolution in video storytelling. I agree. Like it is now, like you said, all the tools touching everything.
Yep. Well, which is funny because NDI came from originally just being a way to get computer video into a TriCaster without running an HDMI cable.
Without having to run a converter.
And then, over the years, it just became, okay, they didn't forget about that part, but everything was focused on the live production and not bringing in the rest of the computer platform. And now 5 did it. You know, and you know, NDI 5, you know.
This is a snapshot of it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a snapshot. It's a good graphic. Just talks about all the little pieces we have. Easy integration, like you were talking about earlier, for things like Adobe Creative Cloud. The HX camera app has now been more prolific. It's on multiple platforms. RUDP and what we're doing in the WAN. NDI Remote you talked about. ARM support, so there's going to be tons of ARM processors. And then Bridge, which is always the thing I'm the most excited for whenever I get to talk about it.
Yeah, the ARM process is neat. I mean, the first thing we're going to see from ARM is really going to be the Bird Dog Play when that comes out. There's other folks. I know that there's somebody out there that made an NDI decoder that'll play on a Raspberry Pi.
That's like, yeah.
You know, if you want to build your own, if you want to go and build your own, go for it. But yeah, we're really here to talk about NDI 5.5 just announced. Yeah, why don't you give the highlights on some of it?
Yeah, so I think the big pieces of 5.5, we have a couple of new developments. We're doing stuff underneath the hood all the time at NDI. NDI is like the forward development branch of this group, where we're like doing all this in a very public way. If you want to see where we're trying to go as an organization, you can look at what NDI 5 is doing, or NDI as a group, and be like, oh yeah, they're getting involved with more and more technology and things like that. So it is really kind of breaking down the boundaries with the live content, whether that be improvements into the new webcam app, whether that be changes to remote to make that more viable, new improvements in Bridge. And it's just designed to make this stuff simple and scalable. And I think it goes back to that point of making it very human, making it very, you know, not this high-tech thing where you got to call somebody to figure out, you need a guru. No, NDI 5 is something you can install and work with today.
So we're going to hit on a lot of these tools. There's several new tools, I mean, or new or improved. So, you know, the webcam OS, or I'm sorry, the webcam, Studio Monitor. We're going to dive into it.
Before we go, I want to just go back to this last slide really quick with Glenn. There's actually something that we didn't capture on this little snapshot. Now you have the auto launcher. So beyond running the NDI Tools sort of application, lets you run all these individual tools, you can actually set up with that gear and actually go in and say, hey, I want, when my computer launches, launch webcam, launch this, launch that. Before, some of those were defaulted, or you had to go into your sort of profile settings. Now, again, making it more easy for an average end user, click the gear. Do you want webcam to start when your computer starts? Run it.
That's actually very cool, because that is, you know, somebody can deploy these. I didn't even know about that. Thank you. Because that's one of the first things I always do is go in and say, okay, make sure webcam comes up all the time, make sure all this, so you can do it from one place. Very cool. So I like to talk. Let's talk about 5.5 is the architecture. NDI Tools is really something that it's free. First off, this is free. Everything we're talking about is
Entirely
free.
free.
I don't care what you're using in the NDI world or what you're using. NDI Tools is completely free, and I like to talk about 3 really useful apps.
Yep.
If you're going in a TriCaster, whether it's a Mini or a TC1 Pro or whatever, Studio Monitor is great because Studio Monitor is the simplest run. I use it all the time for just troubleshooting. If I'm not getting video into my TriCaster, let me see if I can get into Studio Monitor. If I'm getting into Studio Monitor, then I know, hey, I'm getting
Now
video.
you know what to troubleshoot.
I know what to troubleshoot.
Yeah.
You've got the ability to look at your cameras. You got PTZ control. You can recall shots. There's not a lot of sexiness there, but it's a phenomenal tool.
I think it's actually a ton underneath the hood for something that's free.
Oh, yeah.
PTZ control.
Yep.
I always tell this story, which is a true story. I work with an operator. She goes by Solus Digital, and she arrived on a shoot, had not done production before. She came from sort of the social media advertising world, and she got an Xbox controller and the Studio Monitor app, and she was whipping PTZs around like she'd been doing it forever. Like she'd been training, doing it for 10 years, and there were industry vets like looking at what she was doing in awe, and it's just that simple. And then the other thing that's here with the KVM, I use a lot of KVM, and the fact that I can have multiple systems using NDI Tools, KVM'd ready, and at an instant, I could just go and say, oh, hey, I need to do something.
Right. So to back up, what that means is, with the NDI Studio Monitor, you have keyboard video monitor control over, so you can look at any computer, you can look at any of your TriCasters, remotely go in and actually switch a show, control it, do things. I've used that for troubleshooting before too, so it's great. The other tool I like to talk about, NDI Screen Capture. We talked about that. That's where NDI came from, was being able to take a laptop, or a computer screen, bring it into a computer without running an HDMI cable. NDI Screen Capture, free tool. That means any computer on your network that you run that, you can suddenly pull in as a video feed into your TriCaster and work with it. Not new and improved, just a tool that's been there, but a great tool.
There's some points to talk about this, because as we go through iterations, right? If you haven't touched screen capture since maybe NDI 1 or when the first release of tools was, there are some improvements underneath the hood. The option to have multiple monitors be pushed out. The webcam can be encoded as well through screen capture. If you're working with an esports environment where you're playing a game at a very high resolution, a very high frame rate, screen capture can grab that content and push that out. So there are, depending on people's last time working with the tool set, updating can get you some really slick workflows for free. And
we're talking audio and video, so you can bring in the audio and the video, which is nice. So that's a great way of bringing in if you don't have a TC2 Elite or a TC1 Pro. It is a way of getting Zoom meetings and team meetings into the system as well. Another neat little one, the NDI VLC plugin. This is great. This is another thing you can use for just testing. If you just want to, load up a VLC player with a clip and just keep it loading and looping in play so you can see it. Or, if you just want to check a recording. I mean, that's the thing too, is if you've just recorded something and you want to go and check it because it recognizes the files natively, correct? So you just drop a file in there and play it and make sure your recording happened without having to bring it into Adobe Premiere or anything else like that.
I like VLC. If you're a live production guy, and that's my background, you've had sponsor X come with their commercial 5 minutes before the show starts. And now you're in the pickle because those guys are paying the bill. And with the VLC plugin, you're good. Load it on the laptop, hit play.
Yep.
You could the number of times that will save you alone, and again, it's free, is just innumerable. It happens all the time where someone's content that needs to be part of the show, every excuse under the bus, but in the world, and now you can just say, cool, I have the VLC laptop, turn that on, pop in the drive, we're good. I don't even have to worry that I'm pushing something directly onto one of my computers. It's all going through NDI. So, that could be your burner PC.
Yep. The warning I will give people, which is a little confusing, when it's going out NDI, you're not seeing anything on your screen, which will mess you up the first time.
You got to be comfortable hitting play.
Yeah. All right. So now we get to talk about new and improved. And the webcam has been improved. You were telling me about an interesting use you were doing with it. So I'm going to let you talk about what you're doing with the webcam and the improvements there.
So let's hit a couple things out the gate. We give you 4 NDI sources now. So you can generate multiple unique NDI sources as webcam inputs. At first, I think you were telling me like, hey, this is cool, but what can I use it for? I think there are already services that were sort of, for lack of a better term, multiplexing your webcam. Like, let my webcam go to multiple places at the same time, right? If I wanted to use this in like a call, like a Zoom call, but also record my webcam in like a free application, like an OBS or something like that. Sometimes there might be conflicts. So now, hey, webcam fills that gap. But what I do, and what I shared with you is I'm an all bridge workflow. I don't have any systems anymore in my apartment. I was in the process of moving, so like I wanted to make sure stuff was easy and those systems were easier if they weren't around. And so I'm generating a lot of NDI sources from multiple locations. So there's a studio location with PTZ cameras. There's my location with my webcam and my microphone. And all of this stuff is sort of going into this greater NDI matrix. And there I gain a lot of benefit by being able to approach this kind of workflow of I have multiple different videos. I see the videos I'm choosing. You know, I can say, hey, this is my TriCache's output versus this is my computer's output. And I can work with that stuff. And it works with all of the applications that you're used to. So it's working with Hangouts and GoToMeeting, which I think a lot of people talk about. Hey, how do I work with that's an NDI workflow? Webcam. We don't cover that on Live Call Connect because some sort of weird reasons in their software and implementation. But you can still work with them in an NDI workflow. And now that webcam's improved, you gain all this stuff. Obviously, Skype, Zoom, Teams, all those guys. And then now that we let you go up to 60, we're always building for now and the future with NDI. And so we're giving you the opportunity, whereas technology improves, webcam's already there. And so if you've used webcam before, you're going to notice some really quick ease of use features. And because there's different audio and video routes, you can start to get your engineering cap on and maybe produce something that's a little bit different. Like I take my local microphone, bring it into a TriCaster, use the neural voice isolation, and bring that back into my meetings. And so since doing that, people have said, wow, the microphone sounds really clean. I'm using something that's very inexpensive compared to
You can have that too if you want to.
Yeah.
All right. So NDI Remote. This one's huge.
Yes.
This was literally what made me download 5.5 right away and test it.
Yep.
It came out in NDI 5.
Yes.
And honestly, I was a little disappointed. It was missing a key feature, which is now there. What I didn't have is I could bring you in. I could send you a web link. You could click on it, and you're coming in through your web browser. I've got you. The problem is I couldn't talk back to you.
Yeah.
So 5.5 brought the talkback feature in, which now means I can bring you in, and we can have a conversation. So I can actually bring you in as a remote guest.
Yeah.
And do things much easier.
I'm not just for contribution anymore. I can actually be part of a conversation.
You can interact. Yep.
The other thing I'll say that is the ability to screen share.
Yeah. This
is now a link I send out to somebody.
Yep.
Can you open a website link? Can you click this link in the email I gave you? And this will do most of the heavy lifting. I think when a lot of times what we approach on the NewTek side when we're talking with people who are getting into the space is as awesome and as high tech as an end user can be, the fact that you can just give them 2 buttons and just be like, hey, this is the camera you want to use. Now you're sharing your screen. That's a new piece to this puzzle. And I think, to your point, Glenn, just accurate criticisms. I think it was in that beta stage of hey, we're showing you where NDI is going to continue to grow. And I think it's important, like we talked about earlier, that it's beyond just the traditional production. It just so happens that our productions were also heavily getting into this kind of content as well.
Oh yeah, no, and it worked, and it did when 5 came out. It worked, and it was great. It was just like, okay, it's not having that talkback, so we got to figure out how we work around that. And I use it for a couple of things.
Sure.
But you just touched on something that I didn't even think about, and I don't know if you meant to touch on it, but I do a lot of remote troubleshooting. And getting somebody to use any desk or any of those is a pain. And you just said it. If I just need to look at somebody's system and see a setting, I could just send them this link and say, share your desktop or share your screen. And I can say, click on that button. Okay.
The roads NDI grows through is very interesting. And I think this is why we always looked at it like from the software and IT development space.
Okay.
We always looked at those components. And this is the benefit of getting new people involved with NDI.
All right, Bridge. So you told me something about Bridge that I'm glad to hear that you now have some performance meters in it.
Yeah, so the data analytics on Bridge now are giving you both ways of the pathway.
Okay, so let's back up. For people that don't know what Bridge is doing.
Sure.
So, Bridge is a way to basically extend an NDI feed from your local network, across the internet,
WAN. Yep.
Across the WAN to another location. So go ahead, give them the details.
So now you got NDI going across the wide area network to 2 locations, right? Where we were with Bridge is a lot of slick stuff. We had to support H.264 and HEVC encoding.
Yep.
We let you set the bit rate per feed. So you could say 4 megabit, which is I think the recommendation, or go down to 2 or go up to 8, depending on the quality, depending on your network connection. Now, NDI is interesting when you're deploying it in scale and having multiple sources. Now the Bridge app per sort of instance, so on my side of the network versus on your side of the network, will tell me how many bits am I sending, how many bits am I receiving. If I'm doing some kind of entirely remote production, maybe I'm using 4 instances of Studio Monitor, I'll now know how much bandwidth I'm eating for all of those, because that'll be what I'm pulling in, and what I'm sending out might be one NDI feed. So those numbers won't be the same. And I think in the initial instance of the app, it was just giving you one number. Hey, here's the amount of bandwidth you're using.
Yep.
And mostly it was talking about, I think, the outbound bandwidth.
Yep.
But now we're giving you both of those pieces. And so that's not in our notes here, but that is part of the 5.5 release, is that and they have made improvements to just how Bridge is working in general. And if you're not using Bridge and you don't have a use case, like I said earlier, I am entirely Bridge.
Yep.
I do not, everything is going in, through, and out of, and I'm like, no one's ever complained to me about this sort of delay in implication. And using all the other NDI 5.5 tools, it's just super slick to be working with that.
And the thing, just to come back to, because we touched on this, is we were just talking about NDI Remote. NDI Remote, I send you a link, you click on NDI Remote, it pops up in your web browser, and you got video. Bridge is that Bridge is that same level of simplicity. Is from your side, you go in and say, great, I want to make a connection. I can send you a QR code. You can scan a QR code. I can send you an email link. You click on it, and it's that level of stuff of bringing it down to, you don't need to be an engineer. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure this out, making it more available to the every man and every woman, just to do what is considered a complex. And that's what I loved about Bridge, is I've set up other types of NDI remote workflows.
Yeah.
Bridge is the easiest to get going. So
it's really slick. Yeah. I'll just give 2 use cases. How's the worship?
Yep.
Those are people always trying to get contributors. Remote and Bridge help a lot in that space. Schools of all levels. Colleges make a lot of sense when you're doing things with Bridge, but high schools and districts that want to get your schools interconnected, if you're in the NDI world, set up some Bridge systems, and now your middle school and high school and all the different schools can be interactive. So right. Bridge is really slick for free.
Well, the other thing too, which we forget about is, we're talking about using Bridge to go from, New York to California.
Certainly.
Okay. There are cases where the other thing that Bridge is doing is you are re-encoding, you are bringing down the bandwidth.
Sure.
So you can use Bridge to kind of say, hey, we need to go from the football field to, the production room, and we don't have a big network pipe.
Nope.
So we need to bring down the bandwidth to get it to there. And there's a lot of uses for that in Bridge as well, which we don't talk about much.
I think that these are all points to highlight, hey, Bridge is, it can be a lot of sophisticated implementations for an easy piece of software that you could just copy paste the information back and forth. And the encryption key, hey, it's encrypted. You can encrypt this thing. You can change the encryption key every day, every hour, in between your shows, whatever you want to do. And we actually do warn you if your encryption key is too weak.
Nice.
It'll tell you, hey, this is too few characters. Understand that at any point, just like with everything that's on the network, this could be vulnerable. Increase that, and you'll sort of defend yourself.
Yeah, I think I'm getting worried about in this presentation is we've got 2 geeks talking. So I keep kind of reminding myself, I got to bring it back and make sure we're bringing it to what everybody in the audience is understanding. But no, it is a secure connection, but great stuff there. And then this is the other new one. This is the only really new.
This is brand new tool.
Brand new tool. This is NDI Router.
Yes.
I love it. I again, another one that I played with, tested it with multiple devices. NDI HX, full NDI. Different camera manufacturers, different I/O devices. So give us the lowdown. Yeah,
so Router is, if you think of your traditional video routing software or hardware device, now NDI Router is doing that for your NDI application. So allows you to give set a button with a name to then change a signal flow from, hey, I was routing the output of a TriCaster, and now I just want to route the output of the PTZ camera. And I can now easily change these. And like you said, it doesn't care of either full bandwidth NDI or HX. It's just going to work and do those. And I think it makes things very, easy. And with the presets in the store, you can flip these configurations really quickly. I think it'll sort of probably permeate a lot in the low end of NDI, beginner users or people using some simple softwares and things like that. But it has applications, I think, throughout any facility level.
Well, let's talk about this. Let's think about it. If I've got my TriCaster sending out an NDI signal, and I've got a Spark or something, I've got another decoding device on the other end. If I want to say, hey, I don't want mix 1 out of that, I want mix 2, I have to go into the web GUI of that Spark, find that, change it, and go.
Now with router, you just say, this is the routed source.
Right. And so now it becomes something somebody else can operate and just say, okay, great, you want that, go to that.
And it's end user friendly.
Yep.
Here's a button. Change this button.
Cool. All right. Audio Direct. This one's neat. It was there in 5.
Yeah.
I think it kind of got ignored in 5 because, or not a lot of people use it, but I think this is really slick. Again, another one I tested. This is giving me the ability to take NDI into a DAW, so a digital audio workstation. So in my case, I had Adobe Encore, loaded it up, went into my VST plugins, because it's basically VST plugin, and say, hey, this channel is going to take an NDI input. I then was able to do some things with that and spit out another channel going back out to the TriCaster with some sound effects and some equalization on it that I can't really do in the TriCaster.
Right.
And
the DAW is designed explicitly for audio. You know, those environments, these audio workstations are designed to give you all that flexibility if you want to master really high quality audio. So Audio Direct, it's not ignored. I think we're seeing an expansion in our industry. I think Dante 8667 were sort of the household names, but VST stuff has been around forever. And so I think now we're just exposing people NDI to this higher quality of tool set. And also, you know, as we were talking about earlier off camera, you know, all things are in play here. Products aren't all there at the same time. You know, you might be looking for this thing and it's not going to ship till next month, but maybe you have the VST workflow and that's here available today. And so I like that we continue to expand the audio space because we just want to give you guys as many options to say yes in NDI.
so, quick recap. How much was all this?
Free.
Free.
This is the download. And the last part that we didn't talk about, the most important part, not the most important part, but the easiest part. Oh, we'll get to this in 1 second. You no longer have to continue to give your information every time you download the plugin. Now it'll save your information and you can download the next version of NDI Tools and not have to punch in your name, your address, blood type, social, credit card. You know, we were asking you guys, no, I'm joking, but you know, we're asking for all this information. If you're like me, a power user who's doing this multiple times in a day because we have multiple systems, it was a lot. And I think now that's just a super easy function.
I cheated. I saved the download link. So
Sure.
Yeah.
But now the average user doesn't have to go through that process. And I think it is indicative of what you're going to be seeing out of both NewTek, Viz Group, the NDI team, in terms of trying to make things run smoother going forward. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes as we came up with 2 really great years saying, how can we start to make this better, easier, and not necessarily from the pure technical NDI minutia, how we're doing timing for VR and stuff like that, but how can we just make something that's easy? That's like, here's a web form that's now easier to fill out.
Yeah. No, and you just touched on something too. We're showing you the user end of it. There is so much stuff under the hood. We could spend another 30 minutes talking about you know, UDP, all the different things like that. There's so much going on under the hood, but that's not what you guys care about. We want users to be able to do things. And I want to end, both of us want to end on kind of a tech tip. You know, if you are looking at NDI, if you are building an NDI infrastructure, or really any video over IP, audio over IP, any AV over IP, you know, the switches that solve so many problems that make this go away, make configuration easy, the NETGEAR AV line, the M4250 line of switches, easy to set up, easy to manage, you know, DHCP server built into it, NDI settings.
NDI settings.
Yeah, and the thing I like to talk about is, unlike everybody else, when you call their support team, these folks can spell NDI. They know what it is. They know how to help you with it. They're not going to be like, you're doing what? And just you know, great. And they just came out with 2 new little desktop switches, which are really nice. So again, it's kind of the backbone to your network.
Yeah.
So we're officially done. Thank you, Chris. Pleasure as always, man. We got to do another one of these.
Can't wait.
All right.
Video Guys is available Monday through Friday. Give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.